Welcome back, everybody, to another SNG experience, and this week's going to be really different because although we did the ears last week, we didn't get a chance to finish them this week because lots of other stuff's coming up. Our show, But Something Is There, is keeping us quite busy, and additionally, we've been accepting internship. That's correct. We've been accepting internship for those of you who would like to work here at SNG, helping us around the studio, and in exchange, we will teach you makeup effects. We will teach you working in After Effects and working in special effects in general, costuming, all the things we do here. And also this will allow you to also work with us on our first pilot episode, But Something Is There, among many other things. So we have our first person working here. Her name is Giselle Arzola. And she has a very deep interest in learning makeup effects and prosthetics, so we are going to be teaching her this week the basics. We're going to start with a life mask, and we're going to turn me into a Klingon. Yes, I've always wanted to be a Klingon. In fact, I was supposed to play a Klingon on Star Trek 6. Yes, when I was doing all the Klingon appliances on that. Maybe you guys don't know, I didn't just do ears. I did Klingons on Star Trek 6. So, and I got bumped. I forget what it was. I wasn't tall enough, and somebody's son, and this and that, and whatever. And I was very disappointed because I was going to do that great scene of grabbing Kirk and taking him off the bridge or something like that. But it didn't happen. But now here's my chance to be a Klingon. And if anybody of you out there want to cast me into your fan production or something as a Klingon, I have my own prosthetics and teeth and everything, and you're going to see that actually happen. How we start at the beginning with the life mask, do the prosthetics, run the foam, make the teeth, make the wig, all that stuff. And Giselle is learning right along with us, and she's going to be assisting us here with the makeup effects and makeup on our show, But Something's There. So we got that going on. We are still very much accepting applications for people. You can come by and be interviewed by us. We have had quite a few, but there's always room for more to be interns here at SNG Studio. So we got a real busy week, lots of interesting things going on, so let's get started. Well, hi everybody. We're going to show you, and Giselle here, who is our intern, who's just joined us here at SNG. We're going to I'm trying to show her how we make a life mask, and since we don't really have a subject here besides the person who's behind the camera right now, Mary, I need to make a pull off of this life mask of me that Rob Berman made over a year ago for my Batman cowl. But while I was in the kitchen, he did the entire head cast. He even got the ears in there. So from this, I want to make a casting that goes back this far to here, because what we're going to do is recreate the Klingons that were done for the first Star Trek motion picture that I worked on. And we're going to do a very similar sculpt and a prosthetic appliance and show you how we did that. And Giselle will be learning how this is done at the same time, which is going to be exciting for her, I'm sure. So, and what's great about this is that she wasn't familiar with Klingons because she hasn't watched Star Trek that much since she was a kid. So this is all new to her, which is really refreshing because everybody knows Star Trek. To the point where they tell me that I'm doing stuff wrong. So that won't happen this time. Anyway, so we're going to turn me into a Klingon, which you know will be lots of fun. And we're going to start by making this pull. So I'm going to set up everything, and then I'm going to describe to you what each of the materials are and how they work, and then we're actually going to do the procedure. Here we go. We got everything we're basically going to need. We got prosthetic grade alginate, which is the same thing as the alginate they put in your mouth when they take dental impressions. But the difference being this stuff takes a really long time to set up. A reason being so you have more working time, but it's kind of like, it's really ridiculous how long it takes to set up. So we'll be slopping this stuff up for a long time, unless I put some warm water in it, which will accelerate it. We've got our water here, a rinse bucket, a bucket for our UltraCal 30 we will eventually pour into this. But what we're going to do first is mix up some alginate. We're going to put it on here and keep it localized to about right here, not past the ears. And once that sets up, we're going to take this plaster bandage gauze here, which is what is used for making arm casts or leg casts when you break your arm or leg. This will make a mother mold that keeps the alginate, which is very rubbery, it'll hold its shape. It reinforces it, keeps its shapes, keeps it from distorting so we can pour our heavy plaster in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is, although alginate doesn't really stick to much, it's sometimes, you know, since we don't have a real person, it can kind of stick to plaster. So this is a very hard plaster that Rob poured in when he did my life mask. You'll notice that there's a ball cap. You can see the edge of it here, which was applied to me first before the life cast was done. If this was a real person, we would be putting this on. And of course we'll be using no straws because this person can't really breathe. But even if it was a real person, we wouldn't use straws. We just build the material around the nose. If it goes into the nasal passage, you just have the person blow out and it just clears it. So there's, you know, it's much easier to breathe through your own nostrils than through straws. I don't think anybody's straw. Okay, so we're going to use this zip, which is kind of like Vaseline in a can. It's an aerosol, and it's the same thing as the Vaseline I used to coat the buckets with. I coat the buckets, I should have mentioned that step to our viewers, that I put Vaseline in these buckets, and all of these buckets here are $1 from the dollar store. They're really good, and you can reuse these a whole bunch, and all you gotta do is put Vaseline inside of them, and it'll release any kind of material from it, whether it be plaster, bandage gauze, alginate, or plaster. So it's something that's real smart to do. I'm gonna spray this stuff on here, because it'll help it release a little better. All right, that'll help that release a little better. It shouldn't stick at all. And just to make double sure, I'm going to put a little bit of Vaseline on it too, like in these areas here where it would like to stick and lock. So between the two, we shouldn't have any sticking whatsoever. If only we could do this with real people. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, I'm thinking of just getting some hot water or warm water, because it'll go off faster. So we got our alginate, and I'm going to add some warm water to it. Mix this up. Now I'm not using a Jiffy, what's that thing called? Mixer. Just using my hands. We do use Jiffy mixers, which really mix this stuff up well. And basically, it's a drill bit with like a propeller on it almost, you know, kind of thing. Really big. This stuff mixes pretty darn well. So, and now what we're going to do, you have your gloves on, is take some of that out of there, and we're going to start putting it on, just like I'm doing it, like that. Over the eyes, yeah. We're going to get, like, you know, far back here because it's a Klingon, and we should be able to lift the whole thing forward. Yeah, spread it down. It's going to go off fast because it's warm. We don't get everything. But this is how you do a life mask. And then you work it up with your fingers up under the eyes. And that's pretty much it until we get to the next part. I'm going to put some more down here. Need to get that all the way back into here. I could have actually mixed up more. It is going off too. Let me look at the side. And it's going to keep running and stuff. Now we just need to make sure it stays in place. It's staying pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That warm water. I still want to be back a little further.
I have more in here.
Do you? Yeah. Just about ready to go off. I'm really pleased that it's staying so well. Now see, this is a person, now their face is completely covered with this stuff, and we don't always need a full head life mask. Sometimes we just need a front of the face. Okay, so this is, as you can see, it's setting up. It's kind of like silicone for those of you out there that know about these things. And it comes off very easily. So, but before we remove this, you see it's very, very flexible material. There's no way that this is going to hold its shape once you remove it, so you'd have a pretty strange looking life mask. It would look like the melted man. So we're going to take this stuff here, and that was a short one.
And what is that,
This
Steve?
is the plaster bandage guard, as described in the previous cut. I'm going to put it in here like so, and wring it out, get a lot of the water out. I'm going to pull it out like this. I'm going to put it on the edge like so, and smooth it down. Now obviously, one piece like that is not going to be enough strength, so what I do is I work on a layer, like so. Bring it all the way down. You just grab them like that. I usually keep hold of both ends, which I didn't do on that one, and then squish them out. You can work on one side, I'll work on the other. And well, when it gets to be like this, then I double them sometimes and do that. Basically, I just want to cover the whole thing with them. I should grab some of those and put them over on that side. And of course, if this was a person under there, we would be building up the material around the nose, keeping the holes open, and then taking little strips of it and building it over and keeping the nose. That would be the only difference. What's really nice about this, we don't have someone in there breathing, so we can just cover them all up. You'd just be talking too much anyway. Well, that's me, see? Now, I've kind of lost track of my layers. I don't know if I put it, I know I didn't put anything on this side. I
So
think
about 2 layers.
about 3-ish. This is actually a really good way to learn a life mask for your first time, because you don't have a real person in there to worry about.
Yeah.
You don't feel as nervous because
I feel like you don't have
think
to
you might
rush that much.
Yeah, you didn't cut off his air supply or something. Are you in there still? Are you alive?
We'll fix that next
I've
week.
had people freak out on me. Some actors and actresses who remain nameless, and just, they were big tough guys. Not so much the actresses as the men. They were the biggest chickens. And they would think, oh yeah, I can do this, and they would start to panic and start to move their hands and
Freak
I give them a piece of paper, and they'd write, how much longer, I gotta have this off now. Well, you can't have it off now, you'll wreck the whole thing, so, and so we had a lot of that going on. I try to reuse things as much as possible, which is why I like to use water. Like there's a rinse bucket there, but we're using this as a rinse bucket. Like, I don't have to put another set of gloves on for the next step. I couldn't do that with alginate, but I can do it with plaster. Because when I worked at the studios, they had money to burn, but God, we wasted stuff. It was terrible, and I just don't think it's great to waste. So I'm just going to get paper towels and dry my hands off, and we can reuse these gloves again for the next step, which will be to, as soon as this gets hard, which it already is, we're going to pour Ultracal 30 into it, which is a very hard plaster, but it's great. So no, this is not something I upchuck, but this is the actual alginate when it's fully set up, and you can see just by looking inside here how easily it just peels away from any surface. I mean, yes, we did Vaseline the inside of this. Oh, here's where we didn't Vaseline it. But it's not very strong, and it doesn't hold its shape well, so that's why we put this on it, which is getting hard. It's starting to feel a little warm. And that'll be very, very hard here in a minute. We'll be able to pull this off. Okay, so what we're going to do now if this is a person in here, so we'd ask them to start wiggling their face and making silly faces and stuff, and we'd start pulling, and they would loosen up ever so slowly, and we would just pull the whole thing off, just like that. Now I got some bubbles and stuff in the eye corners and things, which I wish I hadn't got, but I got them. That happens, but they're easy to fix. So there you can see in backwards the same the very same thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little trick here. Before we cast in our ultracal, I'm going to take water-based clay. And this is a sculpting clay, but this particular one I'm using is actually used what we call layup. And I'm just going to sort of patch that missing area so that we don't have to chip it out later in stone. A little bit of water and kind of sculpt back that missing corner. And I did it on my side too. So it's not as bad, but it's this is not a critical area for what we're doing, but if we were doing this as a life mask for a person where we needed the eye area, this would be bad. We would have to probably redo this, but I wasn't really focusing on the eyes because we only need the brows where the prosthetic blender edge will come down. But when that happens, you can fix it this way. It's kind of sculpting backwards. And following the same lines. And that should do it. Okay. Yeah. But what we needed was the forehead down to here and the bridge of the nose, and we got all that really well, so that's all we need for this. Now we don't need any mold relief or anything in there. We just need to take some ultracal and pour it into this water I have here, which I still think is too much. Rosie, I don't think you should have that clay. And it just gets added to the water. Now you can use a jiffy mixer for this too, but I just use my hands. I just sort of sift it in really slow. You can always see that I have too much water, but that's okay. You can add more. And I do it until there's sort of little mountain rises up out of the water, which you can see is starting to happen now. But I still need a bit more. So now that we've mixed our ultracal, we're going to pour it into the life mask casting like so. And you can brush it into using a disposable brush, and you probably should not do what I'm doing because you'll actually get better detail that way. For at least the splash coat, for the front part of it, the front coat, the first coat. After that, it doesn't really matter. But just using the back of my hands and kind of agitating it over and over again is going to probably take care of any trapped air we have. Now, I could just pour this up solid and we could walk away, but it would be very heavy, and so I'm not going to do that. Now, in a minute here, if I stop messing with it, this stuff will actually start to set up. It takes 10-15 minutes and it'll start to gel, kind of like the alginate did. And then we're going to add some burlap to the back side of it and put a little more over it, and that will give us a nice hollow and very strong, lightweight life mask. And since we're going to run these appliances out of foam rubber, it's good that the thing's not solid. It'll dry out quicker, it's better for heating and all that. So that's basically it for now. We're going to wait for that to set up a bit. But then we'll add the burlap. Burlap is because it's like a paper towel. It's like a sponge. You put it in the ultracal and it'll just absorb the moisture out of the ultracal so quickly that it starts to cake up. So when it's wet like this and already moist and damp, it just lays in very nicely and allows the stuff to set up more uniformly. So it's easier to work with. Plus we're going to put it in the ultracal and squish it all around as well. So let's see if this, this is starting to set up, get thicker. Plaster, of course, sets up much faster than this material here, but it's plaster is weak. So if you're going to bake it in an oven for foam rubber, apply a lot of pressure to it, it can break much easier than the UltraCal 30. All the prosthetic molds I've ever made have been made out of this material. with the exception of silicone, which are now starting to use. Okay, so trying not to set up another batch. We're going to take this and lay it in like so. And I'm hoping I can do this all off of one batch of Ultracal and have a nice thin life mask. I can start feeling Klingon already. Okay. And it's going to take this, now this is pre-soaked, I can just put it in here, and you can see how well it just becomes part of the burlap and works its way in. If it wasn't pre-soaked, it would not work this way. It just chalks it up, dries it out so fast. Now this stuff here is not moving hardly at all anymore, so I think I can safely get in here and just kind of lay that in there like that and push very evenly and carefully, so you don't want it to move, and have everything slide down again and work it in like that. Now I was telling Giselle that you can just put in one layer, let it set up, not all the way, but just till the point where it doesn't move anymore, and then do this. I can do this because I've been doing this for a long time, but it's kind of neat when you can do it in one batch of Ultracal, rather than having mixed double and dirty up more buckets and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get away. You can see the stuff is not moving now, it's just sort of gelled, what we call gel. This is going to be very thin and very lightweight, which I wish this was. I'm very grateful to Rob, who might be watching this, for doing it for me, and his class. So here's one of those buckets that we put the Vaseline in, and you can still see the Vaseline in it. Now this is the one we use to rinse our hands in and soak the plaster bandage gauze is, and all the plaster bandage gauze dust went to the bottom, got real hard. So all I had to do was dump out the top water, which is just water, and then bang out the plaster that hardened in there, and then it just cleaned out. So, you know, yeah, it was $1 bucket, but here it is ready to go again. All the Vaseline is still in there, so it can be used again for exactly the same purpose. So that's the advantage to doing that, if you're listening, Carl. This now is getting really hard, and if you put your hand in there, you're going to feel a lot of heat.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we call an exothermic process, which is a big word for basically the stuff the gypsum itself goes through a process where it gets hot, it sheds, it casts off the water. You'll actually see a steam rising from this if it's cool, and that's what makes it hard, and that's what makes it go through its hardening process, and they call that exothermic. I'm sure there'll be many out there who are going to try to correct me, so go ahead. It's fine. But this is going to be nice and hard here in a minute, and we'll be able to pull this out, and we'll basically see this same thing, except we just have the part we need to make the Klingon appliance, which goes back this far. So we'll be able to sculpt all the way back here, those little knobby things that I showed you, and then we're going to make a wig that will fit me. And what we're going to use is the life mask here. We're going to sand this down a bit, smooth it out, which I should have done over a year ago. And we'll be able to apply latex, liquid latex directly to this and make my own custom sort of ball cap. And then we're going to, with latex or contact cement, neoprene, we're going to add rows of hair and build up a wig up to about here, all the way down here. And this will be totally removable and reusable. And the appliance will fit right over it, and you get that whole effect. And then once that's all done, we'll actually overlay hair over that edge from the prosthetic down to the actual hair, which gives it that look that it's really growing on my head. I can even punch it in. So you're going to learn all that. Not to mention sculpting the prosthetic, making the mold of the prosthetic, and then running it in foam rubber. Now today, in motion pictures for the most part, they would use silicone, but we're going to use foam latex, which is mixed in several steps and then poured into the mold, the two pieces put together and baked in one of those ovens. And we take it out and get this really cool, soft, flexible foam mask. So, but we'll open this here in a second. Okay, so here we are at the final stage of our journey in doing this, and as you can see, this is the stuff we poured up, and it's hard as a rock, literally. And it's still a bit hot, but we can take this apart now and open it up. It is if I can find an edge to get at. I'm just gonna use this edge of this tool here, kind of pry away this because it's kind of hard to tell the alginate from this. And we're gonna get that loosened up enough that we can pull it off someday, I promise. There it goes. Side. You notice I'm prying outward so I don't go against the sculpture of the casting and scar it. Some of the ultracal is caught in the plaster bandage gauze, and since they are compatible substances, of course it's sticking. That should just about do it. Okay, we should be able to pull this off. We should be able to pull this off. There, it came off. And you can see how that's got all the detail of the alginate and why it supports it so well. Now we're going to turn this on its back, and this stuff will just come right off. And we got to like this. That's it. And you can see that's where we had that little problem, but because I put the clay in there, it's fine. I just have to do a little carving right there. This stuff here, I don't have the right kind of tool here to do that with right now, but basically this stuff just chips out. We don't really need the lips or any of that stuff, but we're going to chip all this stuff away and get rid of all this stuff, and we have exactly what we need here to be able to sculpt the prosthetics. A little sort of bubble there, I see. Nothing bad though. So that came out really well. Anything like that, it chips off really easy. But then we take sculpting tools afterwards and kind of put things back to the way they should be. And this is all my fault because I wasn't more careful about how I got up under there and got the material in there. It will get bubbles if you're not careful. There, bit by bit you get it. So that's how we do that, Giselle, and we'll be doing this again on a real human being very shortly, but I think this was a great way for you to get a feel for how this is done and what we will do when we actually do on a real actor instead of this guy. See you next time. Okay, we're back. It's the next day. We have Giselle here again, assisting us in learning how to do this crazy stuff. We are going to mount this in a back plate. The back plate is just going to be more of the same material, but it will be flat and round and gives this places the key and stuff. Now we know doing a Klingon appliance that we're going to be going to about there and down over the nose to about there with the prosthetic, and up under the eyes to about here and here. So we know that's the area we actually need. I could lose this, and I could lose some of this as well now that I look at this, but I would have to cut it, and I'm not sure my bandsaw is going to make that. So we're probably just going to use it as is, which is fine. It'll just fit in the oven, as I found out. So I'm going to start by making the back plate. And so what we're going to do is take this styrene plastic here, and you can get styrene just about anywhere that has plastic in different thicknesses. And we cut a nice strip like I did there. Unfortunately, it's not long enough to do to go all the way around, so I'm going to just add to it. Now we've got plenty to work with. I still have to make sure that I'm close down here and kind of like this. So it'll take me a minute to, this almost makes it, doesn't it? It does make it. What have you done? One of those strips are longer than the other. So we're going to do that and position this like so, and we're going to pour stone in there. That will make this very much like the ear castings you saw. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut off. No, it's really that big. Some of the chin and some of this down here to get a lower profile and to gain more room in the oven, since we only need the prosthetic to be here. So now I'm going to take this and tape it like so, and then I'm going to check it against the oven to make sure it's not too big to fit in there once I do this. But that gaffer's tape does not work as good as the painter's tape. Go figure. I call it gaffer's tape. You call it duct tape.
Whack.
It's because I've been in the business for so darn long. Now, what I'm going to do is take a tape measure. You can cut me off. So you're going to hold up just like that. Yeah, perfect. Sure it's going to fit. Yeah, it's that way. Make sure it fits this way. See, the studios, we used to have these giant ovens. You could put a person inside of it. Yeah. No more. Okay, you just gonna hold it. Just like baby sheep. Just about like right there. Oh yeah, all kinds of room. So that's what I needed to know. And this, again, this was hold like that one more time. About like that. Double check it. About the limit. Width-wise, we're fine. Length-wise, we're okay. So now I'm going to take a little bit of CA, cyanoacrylate. If you haven't watched the other videos, it's basically super glue. You get it at the hobby stores. It comes in thick, medium, which this is, and also very thin. And it's the same thing as super glue, and this is the accelerator, which you can also get at the hobby store. It's actually very common to find, and it's a great glue. Okay, let's go a little wider. About. Tack this in several spots all the way around till I get the right shape I want, and then we're going to pour the stone in. So when we come back here in a minute, we'll pour the stone. So here we've got our little barrier out of plastic to create, which will be better explained when you actually see it than me trying to describe it. So Giselle, what we're going to do is, well, we're going to take this bucket here, and we're gonna have you mix your first batch of UltraCal.
Cool.
And what you're gonna do is put some water in there. I'll tell you when to stop.
In here?
Because you always add the water first. Go ahead and keep going, keep going. That's about right. That's enough water that will probably be up to here, and that might be too much. I'm not sure. We can always pour some out, and then you're going to sift that into here. You don't have to be real delicate, but you know, just kind of, there you go. Until we start getting that little island that will come up in the middle. Now, let's see. Hang on. A little more. I'm going to pour out some of the extra water because it's a bit much of the water. That's about right. Okay. And you basically want to see that. You want to see this mound coming up, a little bit of water around it, and that's about right. And then if you need to add more after that. But now you just kind of stir it in. And it's kind of thin, see? Still. It's pretty good though. So we'll just add a little more to that so it gets a little thicker. Yeah, that's about right. Then mix that in. That should be about the right thickness. We want to be able to pour it, but we don't want it to be so thin it's weak.
Too watery.
Yeah, if you get this stuff will set up if it's too watery, but it's weaker. Now I pre-soaked the brush because we're going to need that. That looks pretty good. You're going to mix it till it's just smooth. You don't feel any chunks. Actually, in one hand looks really good at that point. We could use the Jiffy mixer, but we have to clean it every time. We should get more of it. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is come over here, and you're going to pour that into here. And we don't need any Vaseline or anything. We just don't pour it on this. Just pour it right in the, yeah, so it's, there you go. You can go ahead and pour away. You can go a little faster. You're always going to get some on it, and then we're always going to wash it off with water. Perfect. This is great. Now, it may be that we need more UltraCal. I don't know. We'll find out here in a minute. We may not. You can scoop the rest out with your hand because you'll get a lot more that way. Was that it? Mm-hmm. Okay. You might want to go. Where's my line? Oh, we're pretty close. I can tell what the depth on this is by taking the popsicle stick. That's how thick we are. That's a pretty good thickness. I think we're okay with that. Yeah, we are. Okay, good. Yeah, you can rinse, you can, and there, yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be good. Okay, so now, and a lot of it has also gone underneath this as well.
And out the sides.
Yeah, you'll get a little leakage there. It's not going to go very far though. So what we're going to do now is just clean this off like this, the excess with the water. And I may mix up some more here. So now it's finally getting chalky and going off, and we're smoothing down the UltraCal while it's still chalky. You want this whole edge to be nice and smooth. You can see here how I blended that in, and I've remarked where our prosthetic's going to be. So we have just the right amount of area necessary to sculpt the appliance, and everything else we don't need. So what's going to happen is after this sets up, we're going to make some keys in it, remove this, and we can start the sculpture. But This allows us, when we make the sculpture and when we finish the sculpture, to make a mold over it and have it lock on to this base we put on it with the keys, which keep it keyed up so we get really crisp, nice blender edges. It just makes a nice, tidy little mold. So when we come back, we'll put keys in this and take off, we'll take off the plastic and we'll put some keys in it and we can start sculpting with clay. Okay, here we are back, and this is pretty hard, so we're gonna take off the that tape that wouldn't stick so well before is really sticking good now. I'm gonna take this off, and because it's glued to the plastic, it won't exactly come away clean, but we'll do that. And that's a nice back plate. A little overkill on the thickness. We could have went a little thinner, but that's okay. This is a lot the way Werner Kepler and John Chambers used to do things over at Fox on Planet of the Apes. It really reminds me of that. So that gives us that. And we're going to get this off of here. And we did manage to be hollow in the back, which I was hoping for. And because it's, let's see, what I need. Ow, that's hard. What I need to do is get a hammer. Here's our little router bit. I've had this router bit, oh God, forever. You see, Giselle? It's a router bit, and I put it into this, which could use a charge, and I'm going to make the keys. I'm going to make them all the way around sort of evenly. I think it's time to change batteries. Put one here. You can't see them, but you will in a second. And probably put one here. Keys are very important for keying a mold together so that it always fits back together the same way. I'll put another one here, which also contributes to really good blender edges on your prosthetic. I think that's probably more than enough. And I'm going to pick this up and clean it off. Okay, so now we've got, you can see the keys we have here, which will key up our mold really nice, once we do have a mold. This is nice and hollow in the back and open, which is good for when we heat this and bake the foam rubber. Because it makes for more even heating. It heats faster than if you just have this solid. Plus you want to save material, so you really don't want to overuse stuff. You have to. Of course, the burlap really keeps it strong, even though it's thin. So here we have Chavant clay, and this is a sculpting clay. I prefer. There's Aroma Plastilina, which is a little softer. This stuff gets pretty soft in your hands once it gets warm. And I just really like it because plastilina smells like sulfur, and if you use silicone, you can't use it on Aroma Plastilina because it has sulfur base and that reacts to silicone. So I prefer to use this clay, and it comes in 3 grades, real hard, so hard I think you need a chisel to work with it, and then this is the medium one. And what I do is I slice it thin sections and I start working it in my hand, and it gets pretty soft once it gets, your body heat gets to it, and we can start sculpting a Klingon. So I'm going to get this stuff in my hand, get it kind of warm, and we'll start transferring it to here. Now, I'm not using any reference. I don't really think I need to after, I forget how many Klingons I did sculpture-wise for Star Trek 6, but a lot. We know what we're gonna do. I may actually go look at some reference, but for now, basically, I'm gonna start laying in some clay here. And you see how I'm like smoothing it out right to above my eyes there, because that's where it's gonna blend. And it's not really wanting to stick real good right now because of the surface, but it will. And I'm going to start making a Klingon appliance. You see how easy that wants to lift up? So what I'm going to try to do here is this. Try to smear some of the oils and the bit of the clay into the surface I'm working on with hopes that it'll stick better, which I think it will. It starts to stick a little there. Eventually I'll have enough clay on there, it probably won't matter. Okay, so we're heating up the clay in the oven because it's so cold here in Ventura.
How cold is it?
Well, it's in the 60s, but that makes the clay pretty hard. So we put it in the oven. Now it's nice and see how nice that is. Now you can actually work with this stuff at a much higher rate of speed. And I'm just basically laying on the initial layer of clay from which I will actually start sculpting shape into. But I wanted to get the entire prosthetic area in clay mapped out, which we're doing a good job of very quickly. Almost there, and then we got to do the nose. We did do the nose. Because some of the Klingons, they didn't have something run down the nose, but I like that look. So I'm going to create that same effect that they did with Worf on mine. And these won't be exactly like what I did for Star Trek, the motion picture, but kind of my own spin on it. I mean, shoot, if JJ can do it, so can I. So I've just got a couple sculpting tools out here. I like to use these. This has like a sawtooth edge on this side and a smooth side on this side. Likewise, I keep old saw blades, like this one here, and a piece of aluminum tubing, and you can make your own. But you can make them different sizes and finer. What they're good for is this. If you want to even out a surface like so, which I want to do before I start putting the spiny things down the head, whatever you call those things. Plus you end up with some really thin clay to work with too, that's all soft and nice. So you go in one direction with it, and it carves down the uneven surface pretty well. And then we're going to go in another direction with it, and it carves it in that direction, and you start, it's called cross hatching, like so. Okay, that gets it pretty smooth down. We're on camera, so I want to show how this is done, but then you can use the other side. I would work longer on it, but just to give you an idea, then you take the smooth side and you go like this, and it smooths out and gets rid of the sawtooth edges pretty well. There's also this tool here, which works really good for it. You can just smooth stuff. Especially in water-based clay, you can get really, really smooth doing this. But it gives you the idea. I mean, most of this I'm going to do by hand anyway, but I wanted to show you those tools and how they work. But now we got kind of a smooth enough surface for a Klingon. After all, they have scabby, bumpy heads, and we don't need them to be all perfect. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do kind of this vertebrae effect. That might be a little too big, because it gets narrower here. And I'm going to do another one here. And this is going to be kind of reminiscent of what Rick Stratton sculpted in the first movie. Rick Stratton and Mark Siegel. I think Mike LaValle might have done some of it too, my old friend Mike. They were the ones who really, after Fred Phillips did a test makeup, and I don't think a lot of you watching this know the whole story about the Klingons and how they came to be, but originally Gene wanted to have them look like something more in the TV show, more alien-like, a real makeup or prosthetic, but they didn't have the time, they didn't have the money to do it back in those times. The TV show had a very tight budget. So when we did Star Trek, the motion picture, Gene came in and said, Fred, I really want to do something more with them. We have a budget now, and I want to make the Klingons look more like an alien, not real alien, but more alien-like. We want to do a makeup with prosthetics. And he said, I thought that sort of the effect of your knuckles or your spine, what I heard him say was like your spinal cord continued over the top of your head and down to the bridge of your nose. And that was the effect that he wanted. So Fred, using mortician's wax, built up mortician wax on an actor's head that he had put in a bald cap, and built the mortician's wax up to give this effect that I'm doing right now, and then laid in hair. And I think Rick made some real fast teeth that he could wear, and that's how they did the test. And Gene really, really liked it, so he said, yep, that's what I want, and that's when he said, go ahead and do it. And Fred had Rick Stratton and Mark Siegel do the first prosthetics, and that was the first time the Klingons were ever seen with this type of look. That's how that was born. It's sort of the short story. It was actually a longer story to it than that. All right, so here I am, and I'm starting to mass out the sculpture. It's starting to look a little bit more like a Klingon. It's still very, very rough. But you know, this is just the mass out, what I call the mass out, and then of course we're going to go in and fine tune this thing and make it look just like real Klingon flesh, just like the Klingon flesh you're all used to seeing, whatever that means. And I kind of went overboard with this stuff here, which I don't like, but. I just love these tools for smoothing. Okay, what we're going to do, because this is nowhere near being ready to be called finished, but I wanted to show you today what we do. You know, you see me use the sculpting tools and the scrapers and my fingers and metal tools like this to create effects like this. And so in order to get this stuff smoothed down, and this is not really ready to be smoothed down yet because I want to add some more bone structure here and stuff. But for now, what I do is I take these disposable brushes, and this is a 1/2-inch brush, and I cut it down for doing the initial scrubbing, so it's pretty stiff. And then I use Turpenoid. Turpenoid works really well on Chavant clay for thinning it. It's like a solvent. It will literally turn it to a liquid. So it works out really good for what I'm about to do. You can see how it's smoothing it down. And of course, the last thing we would do is take texture pads, and I'll show you one of those here in a second. I just want to do a real quick brush down on this, even it out. And it starts to look a little bit more like flesh instead of just scrubbed up rough clay. And these ends here, work really good as a sculpting tool, I've always found. I can hear him wanting to do battle already. Under here is a Klingon coming to life. Or at least it's his prosthetic anyway. And I'm just doing this really fast, I would spend much more time with it. But you know, we did this whole sculpture in less than an hour so far, blocked it out. And that was with really stiff, cold clay. So you can imagine when it's softer, how much faster you can work. And I learned to work fast like this because, you know, we would be told by, a lot of cases, the producer, director, whoever, the night before that we needed something on the set the next day. And we could literally sometimes cast someone in the afternoon, make them a prosthetic, stay up all night, and have it on the set the next morning, especially for the low budget stuff. You see how it's getting muddy? Because the material's really breaking it down. Now, next thing I'm going to do is take a softer brush like this and then smooth out a lot of the mud. Okay. And then we're going to get a texture pad, and that'll show you how we texture it. And it'll describe how these texture pads are made. And once you know how they're made, you're going to never look at an orange or a lemon or other pieces of fruit quite the same way if you want to do this work. And I'll explain in a minute. So here are some texture pads, and if they look like an orange, that's because they were made off an orange. Now you can take latex, liquid latex, which masks are made out of, and so there's a lot of latex around here. And you can pour it directly over an orange or a lemon that has, you know, it looks like cell structure, pores, or you can make a quickie mold off of it, which actually works better, and basically make them out of plaster. This stuff builds up thicker. You also can let the fruit, or the orange, or lemon, shrivel up, you know, and get really nasty looking for really, you know, ghoulish type texturing and stuff. But they will make texture that's very similar to pores of human flesh. So, but first, because this is so gooey and full of bad hairs from the disposable brushes, I'm going to go around and smooth it a little bit with my hand, like that. Which looks really nice, very Klingon-like, Klingon style. Then I'm going to go around and do this initially, and you can see a nice texture starting to form. Now for Star Trek The Next Generation, this probably would have been acceptable at this point. They'd be saying, it's done, make a mold on it. But we're going to go further than that, because after all, we're going to make this up and shoot it in 4K. So, okay, so that absorbs a lot of the clay that's all soupy from the terpenoid. Now I'm going to go and kind of put some texture in it, if it'll take it. It's kind of slippery still, so let's see if I can dry it up some more with a paper towel, just to show how that pad works. And yes, you can use paper towel for this as well. Really, anything goes. Your t-shirt, your hand, your socks, everything is a tool for this profession. You might even come up with things we've never thought of doing before. Okay, now it's not really showing the texture the way I want you to see it, but you get the idea. And it's because it's slippery still, and it's kind of more of it's coming off on the texture pad. Another thing that I like to do is I take a pencil, sharpen it, and kind of go like this on the paper so it's not quite so sharp, and then you can do texture and pores by hand like this, which looks really cool. It takes a while, but you won't believe how fast, once you start doing this, it becomes addictive too. It's like, oh, that looks so cool, I want to see more. You know, like up here in the nose, I think it's really showing up better on camera. You can get some really nice pour. And this is what the texture pad does too. And you can do neat things with the pencil too, like draw very fine little lines, like so, if you want. And so you get that kind of wrinkled old skin effect, like I've got there, see? I remember a time when I used to have to pick out magazine articles with pictures of old people in it to have reference to go by. Now I can just use my own hands and face. Well, how is that would go? And it's like, you see how nice that looks? And then you can smooth that out too. And you can put pores in that too if you want. So really the sky's the limit on what you can do texture wise. You can use pads, you can create your own just by sculpting it in. A lot of really good sculptors don't use pads at all. They just sculpt it all in by hand because it's really a nice look. So, but that's basically how we do sculpting. And you know, of course, we're going to finish this off even more on Friday, and we should be able to make a mold of it on Saturday. And then we get to do the next fun part, and that's run foam rubber. Make the wig, cast my teeth, and lay hair and all that stuff. So I wish I had a Klingon outfit. If anybody of you out there have a Klingon outfit you want to send me, I'll graciously accept it and wear it and send it back. Not unless you want me to keep it, and I wouldn't mind that either. So that does it for this week. We'll see you again next week for more of this because as you know, our show is on Thursday night into Friday over the weekend. So by the time we make the mold on this, it'll be part of next week's show. One thing I want to show you is that, of course, we are doing a whole video on demand. Yes, you have to pay to see it, on how this model was built. And you notice how long it's taking me to pan down this model. It is, in fact, 5 feet tall. It is a monster. It is wonderful. And I'm standing on the floor right now, and the model is on this table, which is about 4 feet up. So you can just see just really how enormous this ship is. Here's a great shot for you. I know you'll all love this. It's a bit shiny right now because we just put the decals on it. We're going to dull it down a bit, but it actually did have a bit of a sheen to it, as it turns out. The model was a lot of problems with it, a lot of inaccuracies. The aftermarket decals that Rick Sternbach worked on are fantastic because they resemble, they are exactly what's on the real ship. Their decals that came with it were really wrong. And in fact, you can see how wrong right here, because this decal right here is one of theirs. See how big the numbers are? And here's Rick Sternbach's right here. You see the difference? It's a big difference. These are accurate, these are not. Now you're probably asking, why do I put one of these on here? Because I found these decals to be extremely fragile. They broke very easily and broke up, and I was really disappointed. And in fact, putting the Solvaset on them was real iffy. I mean, you had to put it on and not touch it again because they'd just break apart. So we lost some along the way. I didn't put all the tiny, teeny ones on. I may go back and do it, but I probably won't. So. But it's beautiful just the same. Who wouldn't want a big Saturn V so big that you cannot get it all in frame except that way? It's wonderful. All the complaints that I had about it and all the things that were so hard to make, and put together, and the instructions were not very clear at all. They were very poor. It doesn't matter. If you have to pay $200-300 to get one of these kits, get it, because it's so cool. It's, it's worth it. Anyway, what else we got going on? Of course, we know about the Klingon, and because you're seeing all that. We've been busy with the Spock ears, of course, and you've seen some of that. The sculptures are kind of where they were at last week. We still have to do these ears as well. But as I said, we will get back to that next week. Finally, we have got back together the upstairs loft, which became a kind of a dumping zone because we were working so much downstairs during the summer. But this place is finally organized, and the tabletop's all cleared off. We are starting to work on the X-Wing, and we're also going to be working on the other Star Wars model that I found recently. This one down here, which I showed briefly for a second, is going to be our next build after the X1, or at the same time, which is a pretty amazing model. I didn't get it out last time. There's all the clear parts. And forgive me, I don't remember the name of the model currently, but it is beautiful. And this was sent to me by the maker through Edward Holt. And here's another part here. I'm trying to remember the name of the gentleman who made the model, but there it is, and it's really, really neat. And I can't wait to put it together, and evidently it was from a Star Wars video game. So we'll be building the X-Wing, and we'll be building this kind of side by side. That's the next model build for video on demand. But I got all this back. I am still working on the LEM, which I'm going to be working on later today. And this is an old Mustang, which I'm getting working again. It came without a rudder, which was really not good. So I put a rudder in it now. I'm going to hook up the servo today. I got to put some hinges in there too, because that's I had to cut this so that it would move, and then put a rudder servo in it, which I just did there. Very small. This is a very small airplane, but I've had this for a long time and I want to get it flying, so it's great. Can't wait to do that. It's nice to have a station, a place to work again on my RC stuff. And these are all my small planes. This I'm going to get working again, the sled. And we got a build coming up, speaking of sleds. If you know what a sled is, it's an SR-71 Blackbird, the greatest, fastest, most incredible airplane jet ever made, in my opinion. But a friend of mine is named Steve Fisher, and he is a former sled driver. He flew that thing a whole bunch. And I'm going to be building a Nautilus submarine for him. He's a friend of mine. I've built subs for him before. We don't normally take on contracts like this, but in the case of doing this model for Steve, it's a real pleasure, because you know what? If you flew that, you're a darn astronaut. You're a hero. I mean, that's the airplane, my God. So yes, Steve, I'm going to build you your Nautilus with joy, and we're going to make a show out of it too. So you'll get to see yet another Nautilus, except this is a different kit made by Engel in Germany, and it's a little different than the ones you've seen built before. The same, a little smaller than the one I have, but still a really cool build. So anyway, we're also going to be finishing this up next week for But Something's There, our show. Marty is sitting here. Marty is going to be kind of put back together because he's kind of fallen apart since the show. Marty, you still there? Yeah, he's still there. We're going to get him lit up and in the showroom. Yeah, because he needs to be put on display. So, that's it. Thanks again, guys, for all the support. You're incredible. I really, all the new subscribers on Patreon, all of you that have been watching the videos on VHX, which you can also see through Patreon if you become a subscriber. All the email we've been getting, all the support on the Facebook page and blog. I can't thank you enough. Mary can't thank you enough. We love you a whole bunch. And of course, we will see you again next week for more fun and different stuff here at SNG. Have a great weekend.